The document has leaked, folks. The Trump regime's memorandum of understanding with Iran is now public. Saudi Arabia's Al Arabia was the first to get their hands on it officially. They've leaked the 14 points of this memorandum of understanding. Indeed, it does involve an obligation by the United States to facilitate a $300 billion fund for private investments in Iran. I'll get into that more in this video. I want to share with you the terms of this memorandum of understanding. It's already been signed electronically by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance on behalf of the United States. It was signed simply by MB Ghalibaf, Iran's parliament leader, on behalf of Iran. I find it notable that it was signed by the president and the vice president when it came to the United States, but the parliament leader when it comes to Iran. MB Ghalibaf's a powerful person in Iran, but surprising that he's the only person who signed it. In any event, let's go through these terms of the Memorandum of Understanding. It's set to be signed in person in Switzerland on Friday. Let's take a look at what it says. Iran and the U.S. together. Point 1. Iran and the U.S. together with their allies in the current war declare upon the signing of this memorandum of understanding an immediate and permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and commit that from now on they will refrain from the threat of use of force against each other. The final agreement will confirm the provisions of this article and remaining articles. So notable. Point 1, Lebanon is mentioned in the very first point of this MOU. Point 2, Iran and the U.S. commit to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. 3, Iran and the U.S. commit to negotiate and reach a final agreement within a maximum period of 60 days, extendable by mutual consent. In other words, this is not an actual deal. This is a memorandum of understanding to negotiate a deal, although there are some terms that appear to be binding in this memorandum of understanding. And of course, it says it could be extended by mutual consent. So I think we can expect that when 60 days is about to expire, they're going to continue this throughout the Trump regimes and throughout Donald Trump's term, and then probably hand this off to the next president. That's my best guess. It then goes on to say 4, immediately upon the signing of this memorandum of understanding, the U.S. will lift the naval blockade and prevent any interference or obstruction against Iran and restore traffic within a maximum of 30 days to its full capacity. Ship traffic shall be proportional to the pre-war volume of traffic on the part of Iran. The U.S. also commits to withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas within 30 days after the final agreement. So a binding term on the U.S. right now is it will lift the naval blockade immediately, and we believe that has already taken place. And then restoring the normal traffic within the strait, that's within a 30-day period after the official signing on Friday. Point 5, upon signing of this memorandum of understanding, Iran will immediately take steps to ensure that the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed within 30 days to the pre-war volume, taking into account the need to remove technical obstacles and the neutralization of mines by Iran. In other words, the blockade is open. We get our ships out. Our control over the Strait of Hormuz is released in the sense that the ships can leave, but let's keep on reading what else is in this. The U.S. commits together with its regional partners to create a comprehensive plan agreed upon by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of Iran, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. The implementation mechanism of this plan as part of the final agreement will be formulated within 60 days. 7. The U.S. commits to ending on a schedule to be agreed upon as part of the final agreement all types of sanctions currently facing Iran, including resolution of the UN Security Council and the Board of Governors of the IAEA, and all unilateral sanctions, both primary and secondary. Any sanction ever against Iran from all bodies gets removed. A big win for Iran right there. And that happens upon the final agreement. 8. Iran reiterates that it will never produce nuclear weapons. Iran and the U.S. have agreed that the fate of enriched material and all other mutually agreed nuclear-related issues including Iran's nuclear needs, will be adequately addressed in a final agreement. The final agreement will confirm the provisions of this article. And so Iran is saying, we're not going to build a nuclear weapon, but this also indicates that Iran is suggesting that it's still going to have low-grade nuclear material. It's just not going to make it weapons grade. That seems to be consistent with what we've heard Iran say and what we've heard the Trump regime deny, but we're seeing it here now in writing. Iran and the U.S. agree that pending a final agreement, they will maintain the status quo. Iran will maintain the status quo on its nuclear program, and the U.S. will not impose new sanctions on Iran or strengthen its forces in the region. The U.S. commits that immediately after the signing of this MOU and until the date of the lifting of the sanctions, the U.S. Treasury will issue waivers for exports of Iranian crude oil, petrochemical products, and their derivatives, and all related services, including banking, insurance, transportation, etc. 11. The U.S. commits that in light of the progress of negotiations towards a final agreement, frozen or restricted funds and assets of Iran will be released and made fully available. These funds, whether held in a master account or transferred, will be used for any final beneficiary payment determined by the Central Bank of Iran and will be fully available for use. The U.S. undertakes to issue all necessary permits and licenses on this basis. 12. Iran and the U.S. agree that an implementation mechanism will be established to oversee the successful implementation of and future commitments to the final agreement. 13. Following the signing of this MOU and upon receipt of assurances regarding the commencement and implementation of Article 4, 5, 10, and 11 of this MOU and the continued implementation of these steps, Iran and the U.S. will enter into negotiations for a final agreement solely with respect to the remaining articles. In other words, there are articles here that are binding. The stuff that's been left open will be subject to a future agreement. The final agreement will be approved through a binding resolution for the United States Security Council. As Jana Chokier explains, a $300 billion private fund designed to trigger investment into Iran is outlined in the U.S.-Iran Framework Agreement, and more than half of this amount has already been committed. A source with direct knowledge of the deal told Reuters. So $150 billion has already been committed to be given to Iran. So anybody saying there's not $300 billion is lying. It's in the agreement. The fund is designed, you know who said that? Donald Trump yesterday, that it's fake news. It's not fake news. It's in the agreement. The fund is designed to give both sides an economic incentive to conclude a final deal, said the source, who spoke on a condition of anonymity because the plan has not yet been announced as Washington and Tehran prepare to sign it on Friday. Also, the following from Reuters. One detail worth highlighting about the reported $300 billion Reconstruction and Development Fund. This is not a U.S. government compensation package, nor a Persian Gulf-funded aid program. According to Reuters, the fund would be a private investment vehicle with capital commitments from companies and financial actors across the Gulf, Asia, the United States, Africa, and Latin America. No government is reportedly involved. Well, which companies are involved? Do the companies that are being told that they need to commit $300 billion, are they aware of this plan right here? In other words, the idea is not to, quote, pay Iran for the war, but to create an economic framework that gives all sides a stake in preserving a future agreement. If confirmed, this would represent a significant shift from sanctions and containment toward investment and economic integration as tools of regional stability. Now, according to Israel's Channel 12 News, Israeli officials requested to see the text of this memorandum of understanding, but were denied by their U.S. counterparts. U.S. officials had previously given Israeli decision makers assurances that certain preconditions as it relates to Iran's nuclear program were definitely part of the deal. As Edward Lucy explains for the Financial Times, rarely has a geopolitical roll of the dice gone rapidly wrong. Netanyahu played on Trump's vanity to help convince him to start this war. That same vanity will now be deaf to any future bridges Netanyahu might try to sell. Netanyahu is flailing in a swamp of his own making. He delegitimized all diplomatic pathways while failing militarily to achieve real, long-lasting security for Israel, Noga Tarpolsky explains. His trial is going badly. He's boxed in by the International Criminal Court's indictments. Now even Trump is sick of him, and elections loom. Now, we should not forget that Netanyahu has been involved in a criminal trial, and it is going very badly for him. Netanyahu erupted at prosecutor Yonatan Tadmor during cross-examination in the case today, pounding the table and shouting, "Police state, Stasi, political persecution," after being confronted with inconsistencies in his accounts of certain events. He accused investigators of using spyware in a campaign to topple a prime minister. Judge Rivka Friedman-Feldman repeatedly tried to calm him down, but Netanyahu kept shouting during his criminal trial today, telling the judges, "You'll spend every day in this courtroom," over what he called disgraceful treatment. Trump's support in Israel has now flipped in 3 weeks. It was plus 23 during the last poll. Now Trump's approval in Israel is net negative 23. That's a 46-point drop according to the latest Cantor poll. And Netanyahu's Likud party has shelved a planned campaign highlighting Netanyahu's relationship with Donald Trump. And a few other points I want to bring up. We're also learning that the IRGC is claiming that Israel has engaged in close to 100 violations of the ceasefire deal over the past 48 hours, and the IRGC has warned the United States, make sure you control Netanyahu, or else we're going to deem the ceasefire to be broken. Remember, earlier today, Donald Trump admitted that without the United States, there would be no Israel. Here's what Donald Trump said. Let's play it.
Relationship. Without us, without the United States, there would be no Israel. Without me, there would be no Israel, because no other president was willing to do what I did. I've had a great relationship with Bibi, but now Bibi has to.
And then notably, Donald Trump's own ambassador Huckabee seemed to defy him and said the exact opposite message to Israel today. And there seems to be a civil war, if you will, taking place within the Trump regime right now. Here is what Huckabee had to say. Let's play it.
It's also my job to represent the importance of Israel to the United States. This is just another reminder that it is your heritage, without a doubt. But, Minister, it is also the heritage of the United States. Without Israel, without the Jewish Foundation, there would not be an America. We owe our very existence to what happened in this land.
Now, the New York Post has been condemning Donald Trump. The New York Post writes, Trump told Iranian protesters help is on its way, but the peace deal leaves the mullahs more powerful than ever, dissidents say. Many Iranians who stood against the regime are left feeling frustrated and angry as details emerge about the deal between Washington and Iran. That's what New York Post, that's what Murdoch's paper is saying. I am glad that there's a deal. We should never have been involved in this catastrophic and unlawful war that Netanyahu dragged us into in the first place. Of course, I want to comment that compared to the Obama deal, this deal is far weaker, far less teeth. But ultimately, my hope about everything is that I don't want to be in these never-ending wars. So I hope peace lasts. I hope that we can bring people together and stop these endless wars. And that's where we're at right now. Those are the terms. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. And thanks for watching, everybody.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.